did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomic's veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
Tonight's episode, Letters from the Grave.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Woo! Let's go! Sorry about that. Letters from the Grave. Welcome, everybody. It is Aaron live. It's Sunday, February 25th. We're almost through February of 2024, which means I better start doing my taxes here pretty quick. Ugh. Hey, yeah, I'm solo again, but you know what keeps happening is this whole grandbaby thing. We usually get down to see the baby either Friday or Saturday, and it was yesterday. And then, so we're there all day, and Shelly's doing stuff and helping clean and take care of the baby. And so then Sunday, she's like, I can't move. So here we go. So eventually we'll get this figured out, how she can spend all day with the baby and spend time with us as well. But today she's taking it easy. So it's just me again. What a show. What a tremendous show we have for you today. A lot of reminiscing, a lot of looking at comics and artwork and some other artwork and things like that by other artists. It's going to be very comic centric today, which I assume that a good 90% of you are comic book fans. So hopefully that won't be too painful for you. But anyway, before we dig too deep into my stack of programming I prepared, let's take a look at the chat, see who's here. Past Master Dan is the first one in the house. He gets absolutely nothing for that, but we appreciate your participation and thank you for joining us. Daniel Russell is here. He says, wow, what a way to start the show. He says, hello, Shelly. Hope all is well, and you will be joining us. Tired of staring at Aaron's sour puss all the time. Go Atari Force. Oh, this is for you. For joining us, Daniel. Okay, moving right along here. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick, of course, is almost always here. Repairman Jack, he says, has football season started yet? No, because the Nebraska Cornhuskers always win the off season. So I'm just really happy right now. Helder 6480 is here. Geek Avenger, of course. Barbara Paulson, thanks for joining us, Barbara. Bill Maxwell's here. A lot of Past Master Dan. Greeting everybody. First one in the house means you're the first one at the party, means you're answering the door all the time. And that's exactly what Past Master Dan is doing. Stippling Vaughn is here. Stippling, of course, is still responsible for my snack time treat today as I continue to milk that gift card at Trader Joe's for online snacks. So we'll be taking a look at that pretty shortly, actually. Pantheon is here. Citizen Ronan's been posting up some pretty interesting, some nice paintings on Twitter and other places. If you're not following Citizen Ronan, you should. Let's see here. The Geek Easy is here. Marcus Killigrew, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge, is joining us. Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. And as always, he's cooking dinner, but he'll be around as soon as possible. And I'm sure he'll let us know what he's dining on today once he gets back from the kitchen. Okay, let's see here. Jimmy Owens is here. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. Anti-Entity is here. Tim Elf. Dan, the Pizza Man Genovese. Now, Dan, I haven't said the Pizza Man very often. He seems like he's floating around to other people's chats, which, that's fine, but always come back. Come back, Dan, so I can properly greet you. The Vespa guy is here. Lobo Vicious is here. Duck Bacon, Corey Barton, Squeaky. She's usually hanging around with Geek Avenger. Mr. Monkey Boy 1969 should be in puppet prison. I should be, or the puppet should be. Maybe we'll address that later. Brian Suddenly Old is here. Let's see who else we got in here. Creative Faye is joining us. Thanks for joining us. She says, evening, I'm watching while working on my comic for school. That's what I like, multitasking. I saw something someplace or heard something or listened to something or whatever where some expert was saying that it's impossible to multitask, that our brains are not functioning or made to function that way. We just sort of whatever our attention is on should be on whatever we're doing. So therefore, don't multitask is what apparently they were telling us, because you can't do it effectively. I don't know. I'm just saying what the experts say. Jimmy for $4.99. Thank you, Jimmy. He says, send loves to the Loprestes. Thank you. Send loves to the Loprestes. It's kind of a rhyme. It's a poem, actually. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that very much. Joseph Pantalone is here. Child deduction expenses. I still have one in college, so I still get to use that, thankfully. Henry Thrun is here. He says, hail, Aaron. I finally started reading Blood Hunters. Well, you get to it when you can. I've got stacks of books that I've ordered and have not gotten through yet. I don't want to say who I haven't read because I don't want to offend anybody of my friends' books that I haven't read yet. But, I did back the campaigns, do intend on reading them. I'm a busy dude. Aaron Louvier is here. My Sketchbook 340. My Sketchbook 340 says, hey, Aaron, just dropped by to say hi and God bless. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Same to you. Henry Thrun, no drama, not on this stream. It's all about really low quality entertainment. That's what I'm here for. Rodney Ulibarri, look at that. He hasn't been here in forever. Thanks for joining us, Rodney. I'm glad you could make it. Melvin Cruz is here. The Green Laser, G.J. Martinez. Of course, he knows what's what. He says, all right, the best show in town. How are you, Aaron Lopresti? I am good. Thank you so much. I've been staying up super late. So I'm actually kind of tired because I'm like obsessively painting right now. I've got to get the motor running for the Kit Carter movie poster. And I've been doing like smaller paintings to kind of get back into the mode of moving paint around and stuff. So I just finished an acrylic painting today, but I'm not going to show it because I'm not happy with the axe blade. It's of Dark Wolf from Fire and Ice, the Frazetta movie, the Bakshi Frazetta movie. I'm just not happy with the blade on the axe. And so I'm going to go back and revisit that tonight, but everything else is done. And I'm really pleased with it. And it turned out way better than I had any intention of it turning out. So that's always good. But so keep your eye on social media. Of course, I'll be previewing it or not previewing it, but showing it on Graybeards on Wednesday as well. Let's see. Henry Thun's heated up leftovers for dinner. That's what I'm going to be having after the show, though. Kellraiser's here. Gerald Horton. I knew I'd get it out eventually. Somebody with a really dirty name is here. He says he's I'm an expert novice. You know who you are. James GSR, Custom God is here. Ryo Stew back in the crowd. Henry Throne, of course, being cynical like myself, says, as long as they have your money, I'm sure they don't mind if you haven't read them yet. It's probably true. Although I know Andy Smith gets kind of, you read my book, Kate? Read my, so. Nomadaman's here. Paul Taylor, a resident biologist, is here. And that's good to see. Paul, you've been kind of missing in action for a while. And I've missed your commentary on our cryptid videos. I'm going to start a series on dinosaurs here pretty quick because I'm running out of good. Okay, let me rephrase that. I'm running out of Bigfoot videos. There are no good Bigfoot videos, but new ones that I haven't seen. So I might start talking about dinosaurs, which I have some pretty strong opinions, and they are just opinions. So I'll be glad to piss off some people with my strong dinosaur opinions. Let's see. Anyway, we'll see. The thing with doing a dinosaur thing is like, I actually have to go back and re-educate myself and see what's what and get and organize a presentation. And it's like, wow, that sounds a lot like work. But anyway, maybe I'll do that starting next week. We'll see. We're starting to run out of programming as of today. We're going through the X's of my comic book collection. So we are at the end of my comic book collection. So I won't be able to do what's in Aaron's collection anymore because I've gone through it. So we'll have to replace that with some new material for next week. So there'll be some new stuff coming in. So anyway, I guess I didn't really go anywhere. Let's see, Paul's so was I. But I find dinosaur science very, very interesting. And there's a lot of theoretical science being applied, and which I find very interesting as well. In fact, okay. So I see this dude, right? This young guy, he was on Rogan. He's a scientist dude. And he was talking about time travel. I saw a video and it was like, dude, what are you talking about? And, but he was on Rogan talking about black holes, and that they're, of course, now, or he was saying that they're theorizing, of course, that entering into a black hole would destabilize it and then it would cease to function. And then, so this whole idea of using them for time travel is sort of probably not realistic. However, I would say time travel is not realistic anyway, because you can't go back in time because it doesn't exist anymore. So unless you're going to play the Marvel Avengers Endgame and say there's multiverses running rampant through whatever our existence, that there's no way you could actually go back in time because it's already happened. And just because you go back in time doesn't mean everybody else comes back to life to satisfy your need to go back to 1939 and buy Action Comics #1, which is exactly what I would do if I had a time machine. But enough about that. Paul Taylor says time travel is not possible. And I agree, Paul. I agree. It is not possible. It doesn't make any sense. The problem with, here we go. I'm going to start going anyway. The problem with sometimes with science, and not practical science, not in the terms of physics and those types of things that are measurable and we can understand. When you start getting into the theory and projection and conjecture about possibilities, and this could go this way or what, that sometimes the wagon seems to get put in front of the horse, where you start going, yeah, well, if we could time travel, we could do this, this, and this. And theoretically, if we do this and this, and then you forget the whole thing, that there's nothing, the simple, plain, uneducated truth that once something happens, it's happened. So you can't go back and re-happen it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, to me, that's just a simple logic thing. But, who am I? Am I a scientist? No. I am simply a mild-mannered artist with artists. I'm into that multiverse thing. There's more than one of me. I'm a mild-mannered artist who simply has really annoying opinions. So there you go. But let's keep it about art. Paul Taylor says re-happen. I think that's a scientific term. Kirk and Spock. Well, of course, if you go warp speed backwards around the sun, of course you'll be catapulted into time warp. We all know that. Henry Throne is an engineer. My son is an engineer. And that's kind of like a poor man's scientist. But it's a great job to have. You want job security, be a mechanical engineer. That's all I'm saying. All right, folks, let's get this thing rolling. What should we do first? You know what I think we should do first? I think first you should sub to this channel. Yeah, Frankenstein says so, and so do I, because it helps the channel grow. And who doesn't want this channel to grow? Okay, well, I want it to grow, and you can help me grow it by liking and subscribing, even if you hate it. Just hit that like and subscribe anyway. So, but one of the fun things we do around here every week is we eat food.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right. So I did mention Stippling Vaughn gifted me for my birthday, which was, it was like 7 weeks ago already. 6 weeks ago. This is prosciutto. Say that right? I'm Italian and I don't even know how to say it. Prosciutto with, sometimes you get it with provolone. This is mozzarella, I think. Anyway, these are awesome. The meat's a little stringy and sometimes you get caught between your teeth, and then it gets really annoying when you're doing a show for an hour and a half or two, sometimes 2.5. I'm not going to go 2.5 today. I got me some painting to do. Thank you, Stippling. One of the other things we like to do, so you don't have to watch me eat, is take a look at what Frazetta's up to. Now, Frazetta is no longer with us, of course, but he left us so much greatness. Let's take a look at this. I did choke down that prosciutto. God, that was good. Okay, so that was there was a series of Conan paperbacks starting in 66, 67-ish. The Bantam Books put out. And it really sort of made Frazetta a icon. And his amazing use of red in his compositions, and that's a perfect example of it, is tremendous, exciting, draws your attention, pulls you in, makes you want to buy the book. And that, folks, is the purpose of being a cover artist. Not to give me some boring standing posing shot, but to make me buy that book. And I bought that book. Now, it wasn't numbered 1, I don't think. I think there was like 8 of them, but it was just, that was the first one that came out. It was just called Conan. And of course, there was Conan the Destroyer, Conan the Usurper, Conan the Dietitian, Conan the Accountant. And of course, as we go through time and celebrate the greatness of Frazetta, we will take a look at all of those. But here's a little bit of interesting, I want to say interesting. I guess it is interesting. Frazetta news. Those of you that may or may not be familiar with Vanguard Publishing. Now, I'm not here to pimp, other people, but I do it if I like the stuff. I think it's a good product. I think you should be aware of it. They put out a tremendous amount of art books, different artists and stuff, but they do a lot of Frazetta stuff. And I have 33 Frazetta books already. Do I really need another one? Well, you've got Frazetta, World's Best Comics Cover Artist, coming out this year. So we've got to assume that it reproduces or shows all of his cover work through comics, comic magazines. There's some heavy metal in there you saw. And so the question is, do I want to buy a new Frazetta book, even though I know I've got every single image that's going to be in this book already in another book? So I'm toying with it. But I get the idea of continuing to repackage and re-release this, because then you bring Frazetta to an all new younger audience, which, hey, I'm all for that. Keep the great illustrators alive. Screw AI, digital, get it out of here, man. Let's stay traditional, prop up the greats. And that's what they do by repackaging this. The problem is, like I said, I've got 33 Frazetta books. Are they going to coax me into buying another one that I already have all this stuff in? But it's probably. Anyway, so you can get a $10 discount if you order in advance right now. Look at that. How much is this thing? $39.95. That's the hardcover, 168 pages. And you get $10 off. So I guess it's probably $49.95. And then you get it for $10 off if you pre-order. Now, of course, they have the slipcase edition, which they always do to me to squeeze me for more cash. And if I get this book, I'm going to get the slipcase edition. I already have this one. Yeah, so there we go. Book cover art. I went too far. So yeah, here it is. This is the comic book one. And there's a slipcase edition. And these are the other books that are available. You can see there's just a ton. The Sensuous Frazetta, the Frazetta Sketchbook 2. I don't have that, but I do have Frazetta Sketchbook 1. The complete Frazetta White Indian. Wow, cultural appropriation much. Johnny Comet strips. Frazetta, the definitive reference. I have that. I mean, so they got a lot of Frazetta books they put out. This is Vanguard. So if you go to vanguardpublishing.com, I don't have a link or anything for this, but I just want you guys to make you aware of this. If you're, more Frazetta stuff. Yeah, there it is. So I've done my good deed for the day and pushed Frazetta on you. Paul Taylor's talking me out of it. He's practical. He says, no, if you already have them all, why would you get? But my son used to do this. He would buy and you guys probably did it too. Admit it. When Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, right? All the Star Wars stuff came out in DVD. So you buy every Star Wars movie. Oh, then it comes the remastered. And it's the same movie, but it's remastered. Oh, I got to get them all again. And then it's the Blu-ray remastered. And so now you've got 4 copies of every Star Wars DVD. And my son did the thing with the Lord of the Rings, right? When they came out, bought all the Lord of the Rings. Well, then they came out with the extended version. Oh, I got to buy that. Well, extended version remastered, Blu-ray, got to get that, And so isn't that what they're doing with Frazetta books? They're doing the same thing. Citizen Ronan, he seems a little, I believe the Vanguard books are put out in conjunction with the Sun. Those books are okay. Obviously not a big fan of the Sun. He's obviously more a fan of Sarah Frazetta, who's much better looking than the Sun. So there you go. John Platt says that Conan cover art was wonderful, detailed, depth, and is very dynamic, which is why his illustrations sell comics by the truckload. It is true. And he was giving that sort of comic book dynamic to his covers. I mean, there was probably never a more testosterone-driven masculine artist than Frank Frazetta, and it showed in his work. And who are you targeting? No, we're not targeting women, feminists. They're targeting young men with adventure, heroic adventure, and that's what they like. And so that's what they sold them. And he was really, anybody that's a legend, okay? They're generally, obviously, they're incredibly talented, but they're also usually at the right place at the right time. And Frazetta was at the right place at the right time, at the forefront of that type of material, and was exceptional at it. So he becomes the godfather. And that's just kind of the way it goes. And the rest of us are toiling in his shadow. Okay, now I'm going to cry. Paul Taylor, hot women on the covers. See, a young lad and a hot girl. There you go. See, LECG4 my PP. I can't ever read that without cracking up. Remastered 4K, especially if you have 75-inch TV. It's a must. I don't have a 75-inch TV. I think my son does, though. Of course, he's an engineer, so. My son at 30 years old has more money than, I don't even think I was making that much money when I was 50. So, man, I should have been an engineer. John, I don't actually own any Frazetta art books, so I'm going to invest in a book to look for inspiration when I'm sketching. Well, that's the great thing. I have tons of books. Obviously, you can just see behind me. That doesn't even scratch the surface of all the books I have. That's about half of what I have back there. When you need inspiration and you've got, 40 or 50 different artists and multiple books from them, you just pull something out and go, wow, I'm feeling Buscema today, or Frazetta, or Wrightson, or how about this Barry Smith thing, or maybe even some guys that are lesser known. I got some French artists that do like fantasy stuff, goblins and gnomes and things like that. So it just depends on what I'm feeling, man. But it's amazing how quickly you can get motivated to do something artistically when you start looking at that stuff. It can either depress you, or it can just like go, wow, I must reach for the stars. So anyway, there you go. This is the funny thing here. This is a good question. We're going to actually take a look at this stuff in a little bit, but any specific Frazetta influence panels in your work on the Conan Wonder Woman miniseries? No, not specifically. Generally speaking, sure. But I didn't necessarily go look at any Frazetta stuff before I did it. The thing with Frazetta is more of an illustration guy, right? I mean, he did some comic book work, but very little interior comic book work, really, if you look at his whole career. So you always look at him for if you're doing an illustration. If I'm doing an illustration, whether it's black and white or if it's a cover or a painting or whatever, that's when I go to Frazetta to really kind of get supercharged and think about some of the cool things he does. And that's not to say I haven't maybe ripped off a panel, used a Frazetta type image in a panel because I was thinking of it. But not so much my storytelling. That I go to Neil Adams. I'll go to a little bit of Wrightson's kind of in the same camp as Frazetta. I don't really look at Wrightson for storytelling, but I look at other guys like, Neil Adams and Buscema and, other guys that are Simonson, guys that are really good comic book artists. And if I'm feeling illustration wise, even though it's fantasy or sci-fi illustration, I'll go to these other guys that were more known for the illustration quality of the work as opposed to their comic book storytelling prowess. Geek Easy says it's not ripping off; it's called homage. Jack Elmy, Ramona Fraden passed away at 97, and it's hard to when you've lived a full life like that, and you've lived to be 97 years old, that's something to celebrate, I think. And she was an iconic figure, of course, probably best known for giving us Metamorpho in the 60s. I met her a couple times. I was sitting next to her at San Diego. Talk about old stories. I was sitting next to her at San Diego. Now, in my defense, this was early in my career. I had no money. But she had originals from old originals from Metamorpho from the 60s and stuff she did in the 70s. I didn't get one stinking page from her. And they weren't that expensive. But I mean, I was like, when I went to San Diego, Excuse me while I drink. When I go to San Diego, for most of my career, it's so freaking expensive to go to San Diego Comic-Con, I'm talking about, that I was always like counting my money. Okay, I got to get this trip paid for. I got to get this trip paid for. And then when I got the trip paid for, then you start thinking, okay, well, okay, what do we need done at home? I got to, fix this. The car needs this, blah, blah, blah. So spending money on fun stuff didn't happen very often early in my life. Comic book here and there, of course. Of course. But original artwork where you're getting a little bit more spendy, that didn't happen very often. And I really ticked at myself because I missed some golden opportunities to get original artwork from Basil Gogos, who we'll take a look at, not on this episode, but in the future. Some old EC pages I could have got my hands on with the old witch on them. Ramona Fraden, Gene Colan. Oh, for crying out loud. Gene Colan was at a what's the big show in Florida, in Tampa? When I was working at CrossGen, MegaCon. He was at MegaCon and he had like some Daredevil stuff and different things at reasonably priced for like $275, $300 a page. And I was like, but my son was in 3rd grade. My daughter was 2. And it's like, I had kids. Kids absorb all your cash. And so, once again, didn't get something I should have got. We're all going to be crying by the end of this stream. Okay. Enough of this sadness. When I had hair, yes. Not really. John Platt, I bought a hardbook omnibus of Barry Smith Windsor's Wolverine Weapon X. That's cool. Sketched a copy of his art of his side profile picture of Logan, which really caught my eye. And it stands out. Yes. You'll find yourself. I mean, I'll find myself dropping images into my own work. And I'm like, God, that looks familiar. You're like, oh, wait. Because it's so much a part of our mental lexicon. Can I say that? It becomes like our own like swipe file up there, and you start, regurgitating stuff that you didn't even realize you were doing. You think, oh, that's an original idea. And then you go, no, that's why that looks so great. Because I, subconsciously ripped it off from so-and-so. But yeah, anyway. Couldn't you have traded one of those kids for an old EC or a Nolan? I know. Now you bring that up. Where was that when I needed it? Pantheon says he met Jack Kirby and Roz Kirby in the late 80s at a comic book show. They had stacks of his artwork and it was cheap. 40 to 60 bucks. You think you feel bad? I didn't buy anything. Holy crap. And that's the thing. Kirby was a forgotten man in a lot of ways until the Image guys grabbed him and propped him up like the late 80s, early 90s. And then his artwork, everybody rediscovered his artwork and it started to explode. And now you can't even touch one of his pages. And his stuff was dirt cheap in the late 80s and early 90s. The fact of the matter was I had no money. When everything was dirt cheap, I had no money because I decided to be an artist instead of get a real job. Anyway, I could sit here and complain all night and I just might do it. But we got to move along because there's things we want to take a look at. And I don't even know what they are because I forgot already. Let's do this. Dig that bass riff. I dig that bass riff. Okay. Sebastian Krueger is who we're looking at today, among many other things. But who is Sebastian Krueger? Some of you may know, some of you may not know. He is, without a doubt, the premier caricature artist in the world today. And I would go as far to say he's the premier portrait artist in the world today. We're going to take a look at some of his caricatures first. And then we're going to take a look at some of his portraiture work. And you're going to be, if you're not familiar with this guy's work, you're going to be freaking blown away. So anyway, here we go. He's a German artist. Here's a picture. This is a caricature of course, of Sly Stallone as Rocky. I actually believe Stallone either bought this from him or commissioned him to do it. Now, Stan Winston, of course, who's no longer with us, but he did the special effects for Jurassic Park, Predator. I mean, it just goes all the way back to Poltergeist. Some of the best and most iconic work in special effects makeup, him and Rick Baker. When my son was working at Legacy Special Effects in Burbank, which was Stan Winston's original company, and then they kind of split off. Once he passed away, it became Legacy, and these other guys took it over. A lot of the Jurassic Park guys, a couple of the Jurassic Park guys, I should say, not a lot of them, a couple of Jurassic Park guys took it over. And so they have a huge painting of Stan, a caricature of Stan Winston, hanging on the wall, the original that Sebastian Kruger did. And the thing about Kruger is he works enormous. Like sometimes, like some of the paintings are like, 5-6 feet tall. They're just huge canvases or boards or whatever he paints on. And the amazing thing about Kruger is a lot of guys, you don't see it in caricature, but in portraits, a lot of guys will light table, light box, trace the photographs of the face to get the likeness, the structural likeness down, and they go in and draw over the top of it and make it their own. Drew Struzan, that's a method he uses. A lot of guys, it's a Hollywood method because you want to get the likeness exactly right. And that's 99% of the time, that's the only way. Kruger doesn't do that. He draws from actually looking at the photographs and then draws, and it's unfreaking believable. But anyway, let's take a look at a little bit of Kruger. We'll look at his art, some more artwork in a second here, but I want to share his website with you guys. Well, actually, we'll do this. We'll look at a couple more pieces, then we'll take a look at his website. So that's Stallone, and here's a nice piece of. I believe I should know this. I believe most of these are oils, but I think he works in acrylic as well. This is John Wayne, of course. He's got like 3 books out. One of them is called Stars. Now, Stars was the program book that went with a gallery exhibit that he had actually down in San Diego several years ago. Me, Terry Dodson, I don't remember who else was there, but I think it was just me and Terry, and then Shelley and Rachel Dodson. We're walking, looking for someplace to eat after the con, and we're in the gas lamp district, not the gaslight district, but the gas lamp district. And they had a gallery showing of Kruger's work. Now, he wasn't there, but they had, and we're just going, holy crap. And so we go in the door, and they have all these originals there. They have these, like, you could get, limited edition prints, remarked prints, things like that. And they had this book that came as part of the gallery show, which was called Stars. And so we each bought a copy of that. It was like $120. I hope it was signed. I can't remember now if it was signed. I have to go look. But I had just recently, I don't even remember how I discovered the guy, but I had just recently discovered him. And so to kind of like stumble across this gallery showing was pretty remarkable. And the pieces, again, some of the pieces are just freaking huge. So then, this is a good one here. Got Arnold there. He has a very sort of, I don't want to say twisted, but very sort of offbeat. That's what I'm looking for. An offbeat sort of flavor and sense of humor. So it's rarely just a straight up caricature. It's usually there's something, he's implying something in the drawing about, either personal feelings toward the subject matter, or maybe, some political commentary or something like that. But it's usually a little offbeat. So, which makes his stuff interesting. This is the cover to the other book. Now, this is the first book I got of his. This is Brando. And this is interesting. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so he does this great caricature of Brando, right? But then he paints in this crease, like it's like on a piece of paper that's folded, and there's coffee stains all over it. See, I don't get that at all. And yet, there it is. Let me grab the book real quick. Okay, so I take it back. The actual first book that I found of his work was, see, here it is. Stars. And this is just, just portraits of people. Yeah, Michael Jackson, caricatures. And he does a ton of rock and roll art. Look at that Hendrix portrait. Tons of Rolling Stones stuff. He's like a huge Rolling Stones fan, which is interesting. We'll get to that in a second. But anyway, so that was the first book I discovered. And then it was Faces, Faces was the book for his gallery showing. Oh, it is signed by Kruger. And now he has Faces 2, I think, is out. And those, as far as I know, are the 3 books on his work. At least he's in Germany, so maybe there's other books in the European market that I'm unaware of. Custom God says, I don't like that goofy style of art. Well, too bad. Here's the thing. And I was thinking about this today, that there's some artists that are very subjective in terms of people looking at it and saying, no, I like that guy's stuff. I don't like that guy's stuff, or whatever. This guy is objectively great. Okay. Now you don't have to like his material. You don't have to like the caricature. My daughter doesn't like his stuff because it's so unsettling. Like the caricatures are creepy and stuff. And but you can't deny the ability that he possesses. And he's not just a caricature artist. Okay. Juxtapose this, if you will. I'm going to make you do it. You just looked at a Brando caricature. Now here's a Brando portrait he did. Of course, this is from Apocalypse Now. So not only is he a great caricature artist, he's a great portraiture. Is that right? Portrait artist. We'll just say portrait artist. And I saw him do, and you guys look him up on YouTube, because there's like a ton of like process videos of him, like painting and stuff. He did this Michael Jackson piece, right? It was huge. It probably was 6 feet tall. Just a big headshot of Michael Jackson. He painted the skull underneath the head and then painted the face over the top of the skull. It was like, are you kidding me? And he didn't like project like Michael Jackson's face onto the canvas, on this giant canvas, and then, pencil it out. So he had everything blocked in. He had pictures in his hand, and he was sitting there drawing and painting on this canvas, and it looked just like him. I mean, this is like, dude, I mean, come on. That's awesome. Check this Brad Pitt out. I'm not like a huge Brad Pitt fan or anything. I'm not a Brad Pitt fan, but still. I mean, come on. You freaking kidding me? Just, this amazes me. Floyd Man, Summer, hey, Floyd Man. Yeah, I would actually. Although he'd probably speak in German, and, but yeah, it would be really cool. Really cool. And that's the thing I really respect, like next level respect about this guy, is he can sit there and draw a likeness, illustrate a likeness, paint a likeness of this caliber, just looking at a photograph. He's not light boxing the photo to get the features and everything correct, and then, drawing over the top of it or anything like that. this is all out of his head based on just photo reference. And it's just like to extrapolate that picture into this. It's beyond me, man. It's beyond me. He's probably best known, as I said, for his rock and roll art. And so you can see there's a portrait of the Stones here. And then these are sort of borderline portraits, caricatures. And these are, obviously, that's obviously a caricature there. Ron Wood, what an interesting face Ron Wood has. Well, same with Jagger. The older these guys get, the weirder and more interesting their faces are. But yeah, he seems to be sort of obsessed with the Stones. And I guess that he knows them now. He's like buddies with all these guys. But I think the story goes that he wasn't even a Stones fan. He just found a picture of, not Jagger, but, for crying out loud. I named everyone in the band, and now Keith Richards. And he thought that Richard was really interesting looking, so he painted him. And then he's just been, it went from there. But anyway, so this guy is, if you like portraiture art, with a little bit of an offbeat feel to it, if you like, and he does nothing but rock stars and movie stars and stuff like that. So it's always interesting people, right? He doesn't like paint his neighbor. I mean, he might, but we don't see any of that. What we see is his depictions of movie stars and rock stars, which makes the artwork that much more interesting, at least to me, because you recognize the person that he's painting. And there's usually, like I said, some sort of offbeat thing about the portrait that kind of catches your attention as well. I think Keith Richards will live. I think, let me try that again. I think Keith Richards will live forever. Doesn't he get like blood infusions like every 6 months or something? It's like get all the drugs out of his system or something. I don't know, but he's like a vampire or something. I don't know. Okay. So let's take a quick look at this. There's Kruger, another baldy. So he's doing this. Look at that. That's a portrait he's working on of Amy Winehouse right here. Look how big it is. I mean, it's hard enough to do likenesses when you do them that big, and you're like, you got to keep stepping back so you can see the whole image. And I don't know, man. I'll tell you, I got like mad respect for this dude. At least artistically, I don't know him personally. So he's born in 1963, so he's a year older than me. So I feel young, in Hamelin, Germany. It says here, Kruger's determination to be an artist followed him through school and into his tertiary education. Tertiary, that's a nice word. Studying at the Art Academy in Braunschweig, Kruger deepened his skills and knowledge in painting and fine art. Lecturers at the Academy encouraged Kruger to change his realistic representation style to be more abstract, but he didn't listen to them. Good for him. So anyway, the Stones first became aware of Kruger's work in 1989 when Hartmut Becker, who was his agent at the time, showed their management team his folio of Stones caricatures. When shown the artwork, Master as Puppet, an image where Keith stands central as a puppeteer with his hand up a puppet of Mick. See, that's what I'm talking about. Prince Rupert Lowenstein, who was the Rolling Stones business advisor and financial manager from 1968 to 2000, was less than impressed and dismissed the work. But Pierre de Beauport, Keith's guitar technician, was amused by the work and took a copy to show Keith. A few weeks later, Kruger received a handwritten letter simply stating, "Very interesting work. It must have been a good pencil." The letter also showed a phone number to call and was signed by Keith Richards. So the long-lasting friendship between the artist and the band started the next year in Berlin during the Urban Jungle Tour, where Kruger and the Stones met backstage for the first time. This friendship has continued to grow over the decades. Kruger, Ronnie Wood, who also has a passion for painting, have even held exhibitions together in galleries across North America and the UK. How about that? And finally, at the start of the new millennium, Kruger gave up his career as a commercial illustrator to dedicate his time to pursuing fine art in the form of large format, hyper-realistic paintings, where he's been credited with the reinvention of the new pop realism style. Kruger is not boxed into the style, though, and will go with the style or subject matter that suits his mood at the time. He is now recognized as an artist that sits among those individuals that he himself once admired. So basically, he's become a rock star himself. So anyway, guys he hangs with: Stan Winston, Sylvester Stallone, Spielberg, Robert Rodriguez, Slash, Axl Rose, Steven Tyler, and even the former CEO of Nike, Mark Parker, to name a few. So anyway, it's Sebastian Krueger art.com. And looks like there's hyphens in there. But he's got, I think you can probably pick up his books. You can look at his artwork. There's a self-portrait. I mean, you can hear there's Slash. That's an oil painting, obviously, he does animals, sketches. Frank Zappa, look at that. What does that mean, open? Does that mean you're open? So there's some Clint Eastwood stuff. Look at that. So is that Clint Eastwood's skull? And then he drew over the top of it, or did he just draw that skull for recreation? I don't know, but I'm telling you, on that Michael Jackson video of him painting Michael Jackson, he painted Michael Jackson's skull and then painted over the top of it. Look at that Keith Richards. It's hilarious. All these Keith Richards. So anyway, rock and roll, baby. The Art of Sebastian Krueger. You guys check him out. For no other reason than to admire his freaking talent. That's what I do. Okay. So there you have it. That's my little profile on Sebastian Krueger. Okay. Now let's get down to the meatier portion of the show. I don't really know if it's meatier, but it's something. All I have to do is find it. Find the intro, Aaron. Find the intro. Act like you know what you're doing and have been here before. There it is. We're in the X's, folks. We're about to see the end of the Little Presty collection. Now, of course, you haven't seen every book that I own. We've, given you highlights and things like that. Or things that are maybe of more interest to me than something else, but it gives you an idea anyway of what I got cooking. Oh, that's incredibly crooked. Let's do this. Okay. I'm not sure if I showed you guys this or not, but this is like second to the end of my box of graded books. And I didn't know if I showed you, and I thought, well, I better show it just in case I haven't shown it. This is Tomb of Dracula, number 18. And why do I have this in a 9.2, of course? I have it because it's the first meeting of Werewolf by Night and Dracula. So me being a monster guy, I grabbed it. Now here's the thing on this book. It was a 9.2. This book was up like around $350 about a year ago. When all the COVID money was still floating around in the collector's market. And I didn't want to pay that much for it. Well, it finally dropped down. I saw this for like $200. Actually, it was like $190, I think. And so I grabbed it. So I better get that fast. So I grabbed it. Now you can get a 9.4 for $190. What are you going to do? It'll go back up eventually, he says, hopefully. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We're into the X's now. X Factor number 1, of course, Wheezy Simonson. This was Butch Geist started drawing this book. And then, I'm sorry, I got too much glare there. Wheezy Simonson wrote this, started with Butch Geist, then Silvestri took it over, and then finally Walter Simonson took it over, and that's when it really started cooking. But I've never been an X-Men fan, only because I'm just such a contrarian. And everybody else loved X-Men, so I was like, no, I'm not reading it then. But when this came out, I was like, hey, the old classic X-Men back together again. This looks like fun. So I started collecting this. This, of course, number 6, which, of course, we have the first appearance of Apocalypse. This is still pre-Simonson or Walter. Anyway, that book's gone up a little bit, but not as much as you would have hoped, considering it was in the movie and everything. And then, of course, here we go. Simonson's first issue was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something. But Archangel, baby, first appearance of Archangel. They finally found something cool to do with the angel. They turned him into the Archangel, of course. Leave it to the Simonsons to take something and turn it into something very cool. So first appearance of, but I have the whole run of X Factor. I just wanted to pull out a couple of issues there. Now I do have some X-Men books, not a ton, but I do have some. We'll start with this one. This is X-Men 35, Spider-Man crossover. Got a 9.0 here. Very nice copy of this book. But, you know, Spider-Man crossover, I was there. I used to collect Spider-Man until I sold my collection out of frustration. But, you know, live and learn. Actually, I paid off my truck with that money and bought some Golden Age books with the money too. So not a total loss. First appearance of Polaris by our good friend Jim Stranko. That's issue number 50. It's about a VF plus. I'd love it to be a near mint, but it ain't. But it's close. Great Stranko cover. Pretty sure he did the insides on this. He did 2 issues, interiors. It was like 49 and 50, or 50 and 51, or 48 and 49, or yeah, I don't know. I'd have to actually open it up. And then we went from Stranko. We went into this great run by Neil Adams, inked by Tom Palmer. Some great artwork in here. I'm just pulling out the one issue, which is 62, Khazar in the Savage Land. Actually, I have 2 issues here. I do have 58, which is the first appearance of Havoc. Another great Neil Adams issue, but an important issue in that it is Scott Summers' brother, Havoc, and there he is. These are all VF plus. I was buying these before I was like a near mint maniac, which I am now. I don't really have a lot of new X-Men, but of course, I do have issue 144, which guest stars the Man-Thing. Because who doesn't want the Man-Thing crossing over into an X-Men book? And there you have it. I do have, like, you know, first appearance of Rogue, and Rogue joins the X-Men, and certain issues like that, Jim Lee's stuff. But I just was never a big X-Men reader. So, oh, there's the other one. There's another one, the Stranko 51. I got these out of order. Wasn't paying attention. So there's another Stranko cover. I believe he did the guts on this one too. Like I said, I think he did 2 issues. He did like 4 straight covers and 2 interiors. And I think it was these 2. Because that's why I bought them first, is because I think Stranko was on the inside as well as the cover. So there's also, like, Barry Smith did his very first pro work is on X-Men 56, I think, which I used to have. I don't have anymore. I don't know why. I guess I have to get it again. All right, here we go. All the way to the end of the line, but oh, it's worth waiting for, folks. It is, of course, Whiz Comics number 22, classic cover. Alex Ross, of course, has redone this. Many people have redone this, reimagined it. They call it the impossible cover. You know why? Because Billy Batson and Captain Marvel cannot exist in the same place at the same time. They replace one another. And so they couldn't actually be side by side like that. So they call it the impossible cover. This is C.C. Beck, who, one of my favorite Golden Age artists, just because his freaking anatomy was so good. It's not hyper detailed, but of course no one was back then. But the drawing is incredible. And there's 2 really good covers in Whiz Comics. 22 and 25, the Turbine cover, which also features the first appearance of Captain Marvel Jr., which I don't own because it's really expensive, but I'd like to get it someday. This is a 6.5, so that's a fine plus. Anytime you get a Golden Age book in like a 6 or better, you got to feel pretty darn good about yourself. And I'll tell you right now, I feel great about myself owning this book. So anyway, there you have it. That's Aaron's comic collection, A through Z, although I don't think I have any Z books. But we did have some X, Y, Z, W, X, Y, Z. So anyway, there you have it, folks. That is it. What is in my collection? I don't have a huge collection, to be honest with you. It's about 1,500 books because it's pared down over the years, because I would like trade huge amounts of books for like a couple of books and just kept weeding it down. And then I got rid of everything that was post 1980. I don't know, probably I did that pre-COVID, so probably 6 years ago. Got rid of everything that was pre-1980 that I owned because the value is, if you're collecting for value, you got to go pre-1980. Any of the modern stuff. There is some exceptions. There's always exceptions, of course, but for the most part, all those books are readily available and super high grade, and so the collector value on them is limited. Where the older books, they become more rare, especially in higher grade, and that's what makes them desirable for me anyway. I'm looking at some auctions today. I'm not going to tell you what I'm looking at because I don't want anybody coming in there and sniping me and going. So anyway, Geek Avenger could not be more wrong. Any comics, I pick on Atari Force a lot, but come on, let's face it. Any comic based on a video game is probably not going to be a good comic. A Greek Avenger for $2 says, not an X-Men fan. Squeaky's heart broke. What can I tell you, man? Like I said, I'm a contrarian, so that's just how I roll. Yeah, let's see here. Tay-Tay is a psyop. We all know that that's actually Angela. I almost said Angela Lansbury. Angela Curry. I feel cheated. Aaron needs some Z books. Are there any Z books? Well, there's Paul. See, Paul gets it. That's me. I was an Avengers guy. It was like X-Men. I actually like the older X-Men better than I like the new X-Men, which is really kind of dumb. But again, you know what you grew up on, right? Okay, well, guys, I know you're sitting around waiting and wondering about my favorite comic book projects that I've worked on. And this was hard to do, but I've come up with my top 5. A little drink of water there. Throat's getting a little dry. You got to listen to me speak. I decided not to include any of my own projects. So like creator-owned stuff is not included in this list. It was like other people's projects I worked on. Because obviously, if you're doing your own projects, which I am now, and I've done 4, or on my 4th one, obviously those are my top 5, right? But so I've kind of narrowed it down to, or eliminated some of that. And I also took out stories that I wrote and drew myself. Because I think it's, again, if you're writing it and drawing yourself, even if you don't own the character, why would I do it if I didn't love it? I mean, that's why I pitched it, and that, and so I wanted to pick out my top 5 projects that I worked on that I had nothing to do with, except that I was lucky enough to get picked to work on it. And so that's kind of where we're going with this. Excuse me. I'll tell you, eating and drinking on stream is probably not a great idea. Yeah. So let's take a look. Oh, I do want to show you guys this stuff first, because I'm not going to neglect some some personal favorites of mine just because I wrote them and drew them. And some of you guys may not be aware of this stuff either, so I'll just throw it out there real quickly. I did write and draw a Batman story called I, Batman. It originally came out as a digital comic. I made a lot of hay. Well, I shouldn't say that because I did 2 stories. That's not making a lot. But I had an opportunity to work on the digital stuff as a writer pretty easily. So I didn't really have to, push any buttons or beg. I just called up Hank Canals, my old buddy from Malibu days, who was in charge of that stuff. I said, Hank, I got a story I want to do for a Batman comic, for one of the digital books. And he'd go, okay. And then I pitched the story to him. And this is, he rejected my first one, which was kind of a Looney Tunes Batman story, a takeoff on a Looney Tunes. And he felt it was too glib for a Legends of the Dark Knight story. So I was like, okay. So then I came up with something way heavier, I, Batman. And I got to do the cover, not for the digital, but for the print version, because they re-released these as like the digital collections. And so I got to do this cover, which was cool. And anytime you get to put like Joker, Clayface, and Killer Croc on the cover, you got to feel pretty good. And I colored this as well. So I did everything. I didn't color the story. I penciled and inked the story, wrote it, penciled and inked it, and colored, and did the same on the cover, but I also colored the cover. So anyway, and it's also available in a paperback collection as well. So you might check out I, Batman by me. One of the other things I wrote and drew, because one of the things I always would do is pitch stuff to Dan DiDio that nobody else wanted to do, because I figured if they okayed it, they'd just leave me alone, which they pretty much did, except on this one. But thank you. People are yelling at me. There's a super chat, you moron. Let's take a look at that. Mark Grendel for $20. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. Says, that's some sort of symbolic word there. Smiley 07. Is that a raised eyebrow with a smile face? These are fun for an old noob like me. I read my first comics over 40 years ago, but didn't stay with it. It's interesting to hear about what I've missed. Thanks, Aaron. I'm here to keep you up to date on all the old comic books you've missed because I don't read any new ones. So I have no idea what's going on. GJ Martinez, thank you so much for the $5. Aaron, without a doubt, you draw the best Batman. Well, that is, I'll thank you for saying that. Not sure that it's true, but if you believe it, it's not a lie. That's what George Costanza would say. But thank you very much, GJ. I really appreciate you saying that. John Platt digs that cover. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, John. Okay, so I did this book. I did Metamorpho. And it was originally supposed to be a mini series, and I did I think I did 2 covers, and this was the first one for the first issue, and then I did the cover for the second issue, which is I love the piece to death. I think I still have it. Did I sell that? Who would buy a Metamorpho cover? I must still have it. But it was originally going to be a mini series, and then. And Dan would always okay stuff, and then he would feel like this isn't going to sell, and he would chicken out at the last minute, and he put it in an anthology or something else. That was supposed to happen with the Garbage Man too. It was supposed to be its own thing, ended up not being its own thing, and so this ended up appearing in a collection of Legends of Tomorrow because they were trying to maybe get some sales off the television program, which this had nothing to do with the television program. It had a Sugar and Spike story. Running through it by Keith Giffen, and then the late great Keith Giffen, and there was something else in there, Metal Men, but I don't remember who did it. So there's a Metal Men story in there, and then there was the Metamorpho, which I wrote and drew, which I really liked the story in it. My inkers kept quitting on me, so I really got ticked off by the end of it. So the last couple issues is not my best artwork. It's not. I didn't hack it out, but I was really upset and just kind of frustrated because I would get really great inkers and then they would quit because they'd get a better job, because I was always working on projects that were not going to pay royalties. And so they were like, oh, so-and-so wants me to do Batman, see ya. And I'm like, wait. But anyway. So I ended up having four inkers, four inkers, including myself, worked on it. Matt Grendel explains for $2. Thank you, Matt. He says, that is a lame recreation of my avatar in keystroke. Okay. Thank you. But anyway, I think the Metamorpho series is a good read. And if you haven't checked it out, you might want to. Then, of course, there's this. And this, of course, is Garbage Man. Now, I've been pumping this up for years. This again was supposed to be its own series for Dark Horse, and then it was going to be a backup in the Batman comics, and then it became part of an anthology book that nobody ever saw. So I later got all the rights back to Garbage Man, and then and it was never collected because it was 130 pages worth of stories, right? So it had never been collected. And so I had Dark Horse do it for me, but I had to take Batman out of the story. He was in it, but he wasn't integral, but he was in it. And then I put in the Nightclub, my characters in there to replace him. And so you have really the official first appearance of the Nightclub is right here in this Garbage Man trade paperback. These, of course, are available signed through my campaign on Kit Carter Planet Doom, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But this may be my favorite thing I worked on artistically. I like the story a lot too, but of course I wrote it, I better like it. But the artwork I think is really good in this. But again, I didn't pick it because it was my own thing. And then finally, just in case you guys were unaware of this, I did not do this cover, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. This was a digital Wonder Woman story I wrote and drew where she fights a dragon. Well, that's pretty good. So anyway, it's called Casualties of War. And you can find it in Sensation Comics chapter 28, number 28, I guess. But it was originally an online or digital comic, and then it got reprinted later. Well, I don't know if you call it reprinted because it was the first printing of it actually in print, was this book here, which, like I said, I did not do the cover. It's kind of pop artish. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I wouldn't do it. But anyway, I was not asked to do the cover, which really kind of pissed me off. But like I was on The Legend of the Dark Knight, I got to do the cover because I had the lead story in the book. Why wouldn't I get to do the cover? But then for this Wonder Woman thing, why wasn't I done? I don't know. Anyway, so those are some projects I worked on that I wrote and drew, all of them originally for DC. And then, of course, I did What the for Marvel, if anybody's interested in some really mediocre art, but some funny little Forbish Man stories. But that's the only writing I ever did at Marvel. And one of the reasons I went to DC from Marvel was because I wanted to do more writing, and Dan DiDio allowed me to do that. So that was one of the key things. Of course, I wrote some issues of Sludge when I worked at the Ultiverse on Malibu's books back in the 90s. I did some Xena stuff that I wrote and drew for Topps. So I would write and draw when I got the opportunity to do it. Otherwise, I would just, pick up the script and draw the book. And that is what leads us into my top 5 projects that I just drew. Number 5. And I have a decent reasoning for why I've chosen all these. These aren't just rando reasons. These just aren't rando McRanderson reasons. Mystic at number 5. Why? Why Mystic? Mystic, a book that I'm sure some of you have read. And the artwork in this is really good. Matt Ryan, this is when Matt Ryan and I first hooked up as a team. And I was like, finally, I'm getting a consistent inker that has my exact same aesthetic. And so we were really humming on this book. Now, I went to CrossGen because of lack of work in the mainstream industry, and we'll get to that in a second. I didn't want to move to Florida, but I had no choice. And so I took the job, went there, and I realized that CrossGen may be my last gasp. And I was like, I have got to knock this out of the park. And I did. And and this enabled me, when CrossGen went under, to get back in at Marvel. So that's why this is on the list. Now, I did enjoy working on this. I had great fun working on this. Another book I had great fun working on was Sludge. The problem with Sludge is the reason it's not on this is because it's not even close to being my best work. It was my first professional level work that I ever achieved was on Sludge. So it is memorable in that sense, but it's not close to being my best work. So I wanted stuff in here I wanted stuff that I enjoyed working on, but also represented me well. And Mystic is one of those things. So, and it was a turning point in my career. It took me from being totally off the map to back on the freeway again. And I rode that freeway until it blew up politically in my face. And here we are today. But anyway, so this was an extremely important series for me to work on, and I'm extremely happy with the work. So, a win-win. So that's number 5. How about number 4? Now, I said projects, right? Not series. So this is just projects. Now, this is the project that got me almost to the pinnacle of superstardom. Instead, I ended up in the trash heap, but I was this close to the top of the mountain. And I was begging for work, looking for work. And I was doing whatever I could pick up. I'd pick up an annual at DC. And I can't remember. I showed my work. I really humiliated myself. I was mid-career, and I was at San Diego standing in line showing my portfolio at the Marvel booth because I couldn't get any work. And I showed samples of my stuff, published work. And everybody's like, why are you standing in line? I go, because I have to, And so I met Mark Powers, who was the editor on X-Men, and his assistant, Pete Franco. Both, Ethan would tell you a different story about those guys. I had a really good relationship with them. But anyway, so they needed someone to do this job through Wizard magazine. This was like you ordered this through Wizard. It was like a 16-page comic or something. Jeff Johns wrote it. Okay. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is my chance to do some really kick butt X-Men work. Now, the problem with this cover is, and it's a huge problem, I penciled it. Danny Mickey inked it. Okay. So I had Danny Mickey also ink the interior of the book. And he's just, he's like the top of the top. And someone went in and Photoshop painted this. And it's like 10 times worse. It was a good cover. It was a really nice black and white line art cover. And then they did this crap painted stuff over the top of it. And it looks like crap, in my opinion. No offense to the colorist, but it would just, anyway, but this comic book, because the work in it was the best work I'd done up to even close to anything I'd ever done. And I was really trying to capture kind of a Jim Lee X-Men kind of vibe. And Pete Franco and Mark Powers, and I've told this story a million times, but it's so good, we got to tell it again. So they hired me to do 3 fill-in issues of regular X-Men, which I did, which Mark Morales inked, who's another top line inker. So the stuff, again, it was great. It looked great. They loved it. I have this phone conversation with Pete Franco. He says, we're going to put you on as the regular artist on X-Men, and we're going to make you the next X-Men superstar. Those words literally came out of his mouth over the phone to me, and I was flipping out. And then a week later, they both got fired, and I was unemployed again. And that's how I ended up at CrossGen. The reason they got fired was because Ethan was pissed at him and dropped a bunch of F-bombs hid F-bombs in the comic, which got past these guys. And that was kind of the final straw. So they ended up getting fired for that. So Ethan got him fired, and I never got my X-Men gig and never became a star. So, but you know what? That's the way it goes, folks. I will take a look at some pages from this later. But it's a sad, tragic tale, but it is indeed true. But because it's the project, and that's the only time I ever worked with Jeff Johns either. But that was the one project that almost made my career. But circumstances beyond my control changed everything. There's a lot of weeping on this show today. Number 3. Okay, I don't know if I've ever drawn a more fun comic in my life. What If, featuring the Avengers disassembled. It's just a king-sized What If issue by Jeff Parker wrote it. I drew it. It was Ms. Marvel was sort of the central character in all of this, and everybody at Marvel loved this so much they put me on Ms. Marvel after I did this book. And had a really nice 2-year run on Ms. Marvel, I really enjoyed working on that book as well. I've had really good luck with writers for the most part over my career and worked on very few painful projects. But the great thing about this book and why it ranks as one of my favorites is because I practically got to draw every stinking Marvel character there is in this book. And how could you not love that, right? Now, when I signed on to do this or said, yeah, I'll do that. I said, but I want to do the cover. And they're like, well, Gary Frank's already doing the cover. I said, I'm sorry. No, he's not. I am. And they said, oh, I said, well, I'm not doing the book then. And they said, okay, you can do the cover. So I did the cover. That's my cover. I don't know. Gary's was probably really nice. Gary's an excellent artist, but that's not the point. The point was I'd just come off Excalibur, and they had painted covers on there, and I was really miffed about that. So about halfway through, I demanded that I get to do the cover, and the covers were great, but I wanted to do the covers. And so I got Tim Townsend to ink them, and I did the last half of my run on Excalibur was inked by Tim Townsend. The covers were, and I got to do the covers. And I'm like, I am never going back. I'm doing the covers for my projects. And then I'd keep getting projects, and their covers would already be done. And I'd be like, ugh. So I was getting kind of pissy about it. And so I made some demands, and they caved. Paul Taylor saying, but did you get to draw a Giant Size Man thing? No. And that's one of the other reasons there was a couple of reasons I left Marvel for DC, but I have a story for a Giant Size Man thing. Oh man, is it a story? And it was a one shot, I thought it'd be kind of funny. Of course it'd get attention because it's Giant Size Man thing. Everybody knows the joke. But it was actually a pretty good story, kind of a Beauty and the Beast, kind of alien abduction, flowers for Algernon, all these kind of things mixed together. And, they kept saying, oh yeah. Oh heck yeah, you can do that. Sure, you can do that. And I kept going, hey, can I do that man thing? Well, no, we want you to do this right now. And then, we'll get to the man thing later. And it never happened. So I started getting ticked off. And that's when I started talking to Dan DiDio about writing and drawing over DC. And he was like, yeah, sure. So, and there was a few other factors involved, but that's kind of why I went. All right. So my top 2, this was hard, but... If you guessed Wonder Woman, you were half right. This is actually the cover I kept. Now, here's another story. When I got this assignment, it had originally been offered to Liam Sharp, and he turned it down. Even though he wanted to do it, he couldn't because he was working on something else. So it came over to me, and I was like, are you kidding me? Barbarian fantasy. I've already drawn. This is after my 2-year run on Wonder Woman, so I was already known as a Wonder Woman artist. I wanted to do Conan desperately bad, and so I said, heck yeah, I'll do this. And I didn't think, and I knew Gail Simone was writing, and I was like, how are they going to pull this off? If they put Conan into the modern day, this is going to be stupid. But instead, they took Wonder Woman and put her back, or Gail did, into Conan's time, which I thought, okay, now we've got something. And this is just like, you know, growing up in the 70s, barbarians, fantasy, sci-fi, monsters, all that stuff was what was at the heyday of comics when I was growing up. So this is my jam, man. And so I was like, I was just thrilled to work on this project. Now, again, I said, okay, I'm doing the covers. And they said, no, you're not. Derek Robertson's doing the covers. And I said, I mean, that was so left field to me. I was like, why is Derek Robertson doing the covers for this? And what had happened was Derek had done the first cover. Liam Sharp had done the alternate cover, so a variant for the first issue. And I was really ticked off because Derek Robertson had already been hired to do the entire miniseries, and I was furious. And so I went to, like I usually did, you know, because I'd go to the editor and they go, there's nothing we can do about it. And I'd say, really? I'm going to go talk to the publisher. And that was Dan DiDio, who I was friends with. So I talked to Dan and I said, Dan, he said, who's doing the covers? I said, Derek Robertson. He goes, why is Derek Robertson doing the covers for this? And I said, exactly. Nothing against Derek, but it just was like left field to me. I was like, why? And so he said, okay, here's what we'll do. We can't do another variant on the first issue, but we'll do variants on the rest of the series, and you can do the variant covers. So that's what happened. I got to do the 5 covers out of the 6-issue miniseries, and they were all variants, which is cool. I didn't care as long as I was represented, you know, on the cover. This is my favorite of the series, and so I kept it. All the other ones I sold because I'm a mercenary capitalist. But it was like this really kind of, and I really enjoyed working on the story too. It was a good story. It wasn't just because it was Conan and Wonder Woman, but it was a good barbarian story. There was a lot of fun, a lot of action. I really enjoyed working on it. Not only was it a dream project, but it was fun to work on. There you go. Paul Brillard. He actually owns one of those covers. Can't remember which one you got. Which one was it? I think it was all the bird guys attacking Conan and Wonder Woman. I can't remember. Okay, here it is, guys. Are you all guessing? If you really think about it, it's probably not going to be that hard, but yeah, baby, Planet Hulk. Again, this is one of those kind of frustrating. Here's some more frustrating stories that go along with Planet Hulk. I got hired to do this. Dan Panisha was the editor. I had just done like a Hulk cover for Hulk Destruction #4. I did 4 Marvel Avengers covers for him. I don't remember what I was working on. I think I was this pre-Ms. Marvel or post-Ms? I might have just done that What If. I can't remember. Anyway, so he says Carlo Peglione is the regular artist on this book, but he can't keep up. And this is a big, big deal we're doing, this, you know, Planet Hulk thing. So we want you, would you be interested in doing alternate story arcs with him? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. I'm the Hulk, are you kidding me? So I called up Danny Mickey and I said, Danny, this is a big project. You got to ink this. And at this point, Matt Ryan was estranged from me because he was working with Greg Land. And because Greg Land stole him from me at CrossGen, and then they had got some Marvel gigs. And so, you know, I didn't hook up with Matt again until Wonder Woman, when I moved over to DC, or pardon me, Ms. Marvel. So yeah, so Ms. Marvel was actually after this. So I did 100 and, how many pages did I do? 80, 108, something like that. I think Carlo did end up doing like 20 some more pages than me is all of this Planet Hulk thing. But I got no credit in the animated movie. I got no credit in the Thor movie. Carlo, of course, did, but I did not. They interviewed me for the DVD for the animated thing, and I got no credit. You know, like based on the comic by Greg Pak and Carlo Paglione and Aaron Lopresti, no, just Carlo. So Marvel jobbed me twice on this thing. I did squeeze him for some cash on the movie, though. But that still doesn't get my name on the credits, which kind of ticks me off. But there it is. But this is, without a doubt, the best Hulk story ever. And Greg Pak wrote it. Greg is a great guy, a film school guy as well, went to NYU, I believe. And so we would always compare film school notes while we were working on this book. And it's just a great story. It's the perfect Hulk story because it's Hulk as a gladiator, which makes perfect sense. And to me, this is kind of like Beta Ray Bill, you know, the Thor, Simonson on Thor, Miller on Daredevil. This is the quintessential Hulk story arc, in my opinion. And I was just really fortunate enough to actually get to work on it. And so those probably, now, you know, things change, people's ideas, and, you know, maybe I forgot something that I wasn't thinking of, but generally when people ask me, what are your favorite projects you ever worked on? When I take everything into consideration, not just, boy, did I have a good time working on this book, because Sludge, I had a great time working on Sludge. But when you take into factor, how good was the artwork? Where was that in my career? How did it help me? Did I enjoy it? All these different things. Those are the top 5. Of course, I did Herculoids, which I really, really liked, but just drawing the Herculoids. But yeah, it didn't quite make the top 5, even though I loved drawing it. If I'd written it myself, maybe I would have squeezed it in. But oh, I forgot to mention one thing. I actually did a Conan story that I wrote and drew when Dark Horse had the license in Dark Horse Presents. And that's pretty nice. I can't remember the number, 24, 27, 20 something. But anyway, if you look up Lopresti Dark Horse Presents Conan, it'll come up. And you should check that out. It's a nice little 8-page story. In fact, when I actually do my breakdown videos of how to write short stories for comics, I'm using that as an example. So anyway, Andy Dalloff says, just caught the end of this. We'll have to watch it later. Cheers. Well, it's not over yet, Andy. Craig Smith 2 is here. Craig Smith the second also. I also wrote the animated version of Planet Hulk, I believe, and it was good. Yes. Yes, it was. He's very good. He's a very good writer. Marby Dog agrees. Best Hulk story ever. And he likes the art too. Thank you. Bacon cheeseburger with medium fries and cherry vanilla Coke. Geez, that sounds good. Marcus Killigrew does remember that I drew it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, he's watching Sonic. Or he's eating Sonic and watching us. Excellent, GJ. Excellent. Marcus Killigrew says to Greg Land. Yes, Land the Stealer. Well, he was the best inker at CrossGen, and everybody wanted him, but I had him, and then he stole him because he had more power than me, which really ticked me off, but that's the way to go. That's the way it is. Stuff happens. Angela just had a Greek salad with shrimp. That sounds good. You're making me hungry. Okay, so, but before we can all go to dinner, we're not done here yet. So don't get too anxious, you guys, because one of the things I thought might be kind of fun, this is a very self-serving episode. I do admit it. I freely admit it, but it is time to check and see what that's right. We're going to actually take a look at some original artwork from those projects. There it is. White. Okay. So here we go. Let's start with, now I try to pull out favorite pages from every book or series that I work on, right? So I have some of the original art. I don't sell everything, but I do sell a lot of it. But so here's a Mystic page that I kept. Nice picture of Mystic sitting there. talking to the abominable snowman as he's smoking his pipe. But it gets a big, nice shot of Mystic on there. So that's, why I kept it. These are Matt Ryan inks. I think this is the last issue he inked before he went AWOL. That's, issue 42. Here's issue 36. I don't know why, but I love this page. And so I kept it. Nice shot of Giselle there and her little rabbit friend. This kind of has a Wrightson vibe to it for some reason for me, and so that's what I kind of liked it. So I kept that guy's face. But the great thing about CrossGen was, Matt Ryan was sitting 10 feet away from me, so I would pencil a page, I'd go drop it off at his desk, talk a little bit about what I was going for in the pencils, and then he'd ink it perfectly. And then I could take the page and go over to the colorist, tell him what I was thinking, if I was thinking anything about the coloring. And that's how we had such great quality books from CrossGen. That's because the artist was basically in charge. It was the art director. Bart Sears was the art director when I was there, but for the whole company. But I was, kind of in charge of the look of my book. And then I'd have anything I wanted to do, I'd run by Bart. And he was usually, whatever. Okay, so now here's some of that X-Men art. McKenna, check this out. This is Danny Mickey inking. And you can see it's a much more stylized approach. Angular. I tried to get kind of, trippy with my storytelling. Of course, this is Colossus here before he changes into metal. But the line work and, Danny just was fantastic because he brought that sort of really kind of cool vibe, modern vibe, 90s vibe, whatever, 2000 vibe, whatever this was. And I drew it very tightly, but I drew it with what he would bring to the table. Look at all those broken lines on Iceman's back, those shiny stuff. That's so Jim Lee-ish kind of stuff, which I normally didn't. I was not that kind of a guy, but I was like, I've got to make my mark, and this is how I'm going to do it. And it did. Here's the first page to that. And you can see, look at the line work on Colossus's face. He's all metal. There's Iceman with all of his, this is the pre-gay Iceman, I believe. And, Cyclops there. Iceman with the reflection of the fire in his face. Lots of drama. But this is the job that got me the X-Men job that almost, I can't even say it anymore. It's too sad. But anyway, so that's why that's on the list. And I kept all these pages. Unfortunately, I got they sent me 2 scripts and they told me not to use the first script, but then I got them confused and I ended up drew from the first script. And then I had to go back in and re-piecemeal pages together because I drew the wrong script. So I have a bunch of half finished pages and pages with panels that are inked and pages that aren't. Because then I would send it to Danny and say, okay, ink this panel, ink that panel, ink this panel. Then he'd send it back to me and I reassembled it the way it was supposed to go. So, which is now, it kept me from selling the pages because they're all broken up with the exception of a couple. And of course, Danny got some of the pages too. All right, so here's the Avengers thing I did. Now this is inked by Matt Ryan. And you can tell the inks, how it's just a smoother style of inking that Matt uses, but it's still brilliant. It's just different. Look at that line work on those clouds. That explosion, that is all brushwork, ladies and gentlemen. So now we got the Beast in here. There's Ms. Marvel down there, close up of the Beast. There's Ms. Marvel the beast is hanging upside down from the ceiling, but he finds kind of like the remains of the Vision's head in his hands there. And so you got the beast in the foreground here, Ms. Marvel down on the ground in the background. She's like holding up. Oh no, she's tearing up the Vision's face, because I think, and there's a Vision's arm is down here. I'd have to go back, and this was based on the David Finch when he was drawing the Avengers, that whole disassembled thing, and so I kept that page. I just really liked the storytelling and stuff. I did. Now, this page I inked myself, because I think Matt got pulled off this for something else. I was constantly, guys were always busy, right? And so I'd say, Matt, can you ink this? Well, I really can't. I'm busy on this other thing. I was like, dude, you got to help me. So he would do it, and then he would get behind and then get pulled off. And I'd finish would ink like the last 5 or 6 pages. So I inked this myself, which is one of the reasons I kept it. But also, look, Falcon, Beast, Daredevil, Falcon close-up, Iron Fist. When am I ever going to draw Iron Fist again? The Watcher. Are you kidding me? Beast. And then, of course, Cyclops. So I was like, I'm keeping this page. Because it had the main reason I kept it is because it had Iron Fist on it. And I knew I'd never get to draw Iron Fist again. So there you go. And then, of course, this big old baddie from the Conan Wonder Woman. I'm not sure it's humanly possible to take your sword and shove it through somebody's skull, but Conan can do it. And he's got like this bird cape thing on, camouflage, because there's like these evil giant bird monster things they have to deal with. But you got like a zombie dude right here. This is Matt Ryan again doing the inking. And at this point, I was having Matt kind of not be quite so smooth and to angle up his lines a little bit. So you have some angular lines here. They're not just these smooth, rounded porcelain shapes, which really drives me nuts because it becomes too slick. And then, I don't know, I was desperately trying to figure a way to maintain some of the energy from my pencils into the finished inked line work. And so Matt and I would be experimenting. I'd say, you know, chunk it up a little bit. You know, give me some hard straight lines and some rough edges here and there. And he started doing it, but he didn't compromise his feathering techniques, his line work, right? That's all just really brilliant. But it was more like the holding lines, you know, to kind of chunk things up. And it worked really, really well. And I really like it. And that's how he's inking Kit Carter right now. So if you like this kind of slick, cool inking, you're going to get this on Kit Carter Planet Doom. So that's from the Conan Wonder Woman book. And then, of course, Planet Hulk. Here's a couple of pages I kept from Planet Hulk. Everybody wanted this page. This is when he gets infected by the spores from outer space. He starts going nuts. This is Sandu Floria did the inking on this because Danny Mickey once again had to drop out because he was too busy. But I got a couple issues out of him. And Sandu actually did a really nice job. Especially on the last issue we worked on together, which was 102, I think. We were really clicking. He really got it. And it was some really nice looking stuff. But anyway, yeah, so for obvious reasons, I kept that page just because of that big old Hulk head. And then I kept this one just because I liked the drama of it. Now, these guys actually did get designed. They weren't used in any movies or anything, so maybe that's why I didn't get any credit. I don't know. That's Hulk sacrificing himself to these alien creatures so that to save his people, so they don't feed on his people, because he knew he'd regenerate. And so I just really love that. It's kind of a Wrightson-y sort of feel to it. Panel again. That's Sandu Floria. I've got a bunch of pages from this that I've kept, but these were a couple of my favorites. But I got a splash page that's really good, and a couple of splash pages actually that Danny Mickey inked, and some other panel pages. But there you go. That's some of the artwork from my flat files and artwork from my top favorite comic projects. And there you have it, folks. Everybody's buzzing me. Why am I only popular when I'm streaming? Maybe I'm not even popular when I'm streaming. It's just on my phone I'm popular. I would assume everybody's probably, I guess Ethan's probably has a trash cast going on right now, I'd guess, right? Just back to your Kit Carter 3-book option on Indiegogo. Can't wait until it ships in July, Aaron. Thank you, John. Let me take a moment, if I may, to kind of show this campaign really, really quick, just in case there's a few of you in the audience that have no freaking idea what I'm talking about. It is Kit Carter, Planet Doom, the graphic novel. This is 64 pages, folks. It's 8.5 by 11, so it's larger format. In fact, it's the same format as the Marvel graphic novel series from the 80s that they did. And so the artwork's a little bit bigger. I'm loving the artwork on this. Oh my gosh, you guys should see it. In fact, in about a week or so, I think when I get to page 33, there's a huge splash page and I'm going to show it. I'll show the penciled version, then I'll show it after Matt inks it. And, but anyway, so here's the story in a nutshell. Kit's, I'll just read it. Why not? Why fake it when you can just read it? Kit Carter is an elite ranger in the Galactic Alliance Freedom Force, also known as GAF. And along with her partner Merv the Astro Champ, she polices the galaxy, bringing the most dangerous villains and tyrants to justice. Now, Lord Menace is the tyrant king of a dying monster-infested planet, codenamed Planet Doom. In a dangerous and desperate move, he acquires the Eye of Omniman and employs its unmatched power to rejuvenate his planet and create forces to conquer the galaxy. Kit and Merv are dispatched to stop him, but is this the one adversary that even they can't handle? Find out in this irreverent space adventure inspired by 1950s sci-fi B-movies and EC Comics. That's right. So it's a humorous adventure story. You can get the hardcover signed and numbered. So this will be printed to order. There'll be a few extra copies. I always do that. You always overprint. You never know what's going to get damaged. You may get a couple latecomers, whatever, but it'll be signed and numbered, 64-page hardcover. And it has a gallery in the back of some of your favorite artists from the Comicsgate world, contributing some pieces, as well as I'll contribute some as well. Then there's the paperback cover by our good friend of the shows and great artist, Chris Stevens. This is a painted cover. It's, and yes, I own the original. It's kind of a pulpish sort of adventure cover feel to it, which I love. And so that's your soft cover option. And that will not have the art gallery in the back of it. And nor does it come signed. Here's a couple of pages. There's Schmag, like magma, the Lava Man. And we've got a double page spread there of Kit. Those are the first 3 pages of the book. I send out panels and pages every once in a while when I do updates, which I do about every 2 weeks or so, try to do about twice a month. So keep your eyes open for those if you want to see interior work. And I post on Twitter sometimes some panels and stuff. This is the back of the book. This is a great piece that Dan Lawless did unsolicited. And he always does that to me. He goes, "What do you think of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I love it. Okay, now I got to buy it." But anyway, so it's the back cover of the book. A great sort of cheesecakey pinup, almost 40s, 50s style version. Very cute. Love it to death. Great face. Tremendous face. Dan does the best faces. And then this is Gary Martin's. This will be in the hardcover only. This is the part of the gallery. Of course, this is being colored by Kelsey Shannon. And this is kind of a tribute to the Buck Rogers covers that Frazetta did back in the 50s. This was the original cover for the book, and I changed my mind. So this is going to be in the pinup section of the hardcover. You can get t-shirts, either in black or teal of Kit Carter and Merv. There is this tremendous, or what's going to be tremendous, sketchbook. I have so much Kit Carter sketch material, I put it into a sketchbook, and it's part of the campaign. You can order that as well. It's also 8.5 by 11. And then, of course, the big one, the movie poster, the 14 by 36 inch insert movie poster of Kit Carter in Planet Doom. I am ramping up, doing a lot of painting to get back in the vibe before I start this, which will be probably in a couple weeks now. I was going to start this month, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to get the ball rolling here first, doing some other painting, get used to moving paint around again, get back into the feel of it before I start this. And so that's what I'm doing right now, but it won't be long, and I'll be posting process videos of me painting this. You can get a laser etched Kit Carter shot glass. It goes with the other shot glasses I've got. That's Garbage Man and that other character I do, Wraith of God. We're going to have eventually a 6 shot glass collection with a holder. But this is the 3rd one in the series. You can get all those stretch goals. We're hitting them like crazy. We've got trading cards coming in. David Williams did some of them. I did some of them. Good, fun stuff there. You can get the trade paperbacks, Garbage Man, Power Cubed. I just got a new order of those, just came in because we're running out again. So we have plenty now of both Garbage Man and Power Cubed if you want to add those on. Those are both creator-owned books of mine that fit into the Lopresti-verse and that were done by, actually published by Dark Horse. But I have the rights back to them, of course, at this point. And if you missed out on Blood Hunters, which was Wraith of God 2, essentially, you can get that. Any of the covers, all 4 of them are still available, or you can get a second printing of the first issue with a new cover on it. 2 cover options there. The black and white variant, there's only about 300 of those. And then the color version, which there's only about 700 of those. So it's not like there's a lot of them, period. But if you missed the first one, you can get everything caught up right here. You can look at all the perks on the side. There you go. That is your public service announcement and commercial for today's episode. You'll find the link in the description of this video. Please run over there with your fingers and back if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate it. Can't do it without you guys. Appreciate the support from all of you fine folks who have already got behind the project. Should I refresh it just for the heck of it? Let's do it. Oh, look at that. So we're climbing up the ladder. What we want to hit here is 120, to be honest with you, 120,000. And I'd like to get to like 1,300 backers. I think both of those things will happen, but don't wait forever. Get in there, throw your support into Kit Carter. You won't be sorry. This is going to be one fun book, and it's going to really be a nice looking book. So I'm really excited about it. So there you go. All righty, folks. Well, here we are. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. If I can find my intro, that was called stalling. Enough about me. Let's talk about Bigfoot. Pickings are mighty slim these days on Bigfoot videos that we have not already gone over, but this allegedly, has everybody heard of Beacon, New York? Has anybody ever heard of Beacon, New York? Because apparently that's where this photo was taken. You tell me. You tell me. Is this a dude in a costume with a puppet on his back? Is that what we're looking at here? There's the actual photo. I'm not even 100% certain that that's not a doctored photo, that it wasn't, what do you call it when you do matte? You put 2 different photos together. Or if it's just a dude in a costume. And there's the family. I don't think this is real. Do you think that's real? I don't think that's real. I'm not sure this is either, but if you're in Beacon, New York, just in case, keep your eyes wide open because you might run into this character and his little baby Bigfoot. Yeah, let's see here. Marcus Killer, of course, he knows everything. Says, sure, it's in Putnam County. There you go. Bigfoot of Putnam County in Beacon, New York. There it is. Jeff Potts. So that's so Sasquatch. Indeed, it is. GJ's like, no, that's a toxic Avenger. It might be. Might very well be. Creative Face saying photo bash. She doesn't believe it. Past Master Dan had a sister-in-law from Buffalo. Could this be the Chenoo? Maybe. Oh, there's no snow, so it couldn't be the Chenoo. Dennis Nowalsko says that is a new Ewok movie. Hey, that's right. He's got the Ewok on his back. So that's Chewbacca and an Ewok on his back. Nice call. Loved it. Of course, Marcus Killigrew used to live in New York because he went to school there. Didn't you? Like, you went to Cubert or something, didn't you? or one of those New York art schools? I know you did. So that would explain it, why you lived in New York. Okay, now we've got a little video. Now you tell me, God, talk about blue skies. This is beautiful. This is in Wasatch Mountain Range. I'm not sure where that's at. You guys probably know. I'm not sure what to make of this, to be honest with you. Now it's incredibly far away. So we're looking at this. We're looking at this little dude right here. Now, apparently these guys had a telephoto lens, and they were, this is like a couple miles away. So, take it for what it's worth. But if you watch this guy down here, look at him just zipping across the snow. Not really leaving any tracks, though, which I think is sort of interesting, right? So here he is zipping along, getting a little shaky. Now, again, this is like supposedly with a telephoto lens. So any little movement would be like an earthquake. So there he is right there again. We see his shadow. We see this. They tried to zoom in on this, but it was like, there's nothing to zoom in on, right? It's already blurry. But don't you find it kind of interesting that there's no tracks in the snow? Just saying. I'm just saying. Yes, Marcus went to SVA. That's what I was trying to say. So, and this guy is booking, right? So they're saying it's like that Bigfoot is like maybe some sort of supernatural entity that glides over the snow and can move up a bank, a mountain range like this, which, I guess would support the idea that he's an interdimensional being, right? Maybe he's wearing snowshoes. That is so small, it's not worth it. Utah. So this is in Utah. Okay. Ice Age cartoon. Oh, he's part elf. Mythical beasts leave no tracks. That's for sure, because they never really touch the ground, do they? All right. Now this. Okay. Well, this isn't Bigfoot, but apparently there's an alien invasion in Ohio. Okay. I don't know if this is like a scene from Men in Black or what, but you tell me. Oh, that's not it. Here we go. There it is. There it is. So allegedly this guy is sitting in his car parked on the side of the road, and this thing is walking across the street. Okay. I know if Shelley was in here watching this, she'd be freaked out watching this, but I will say this. I like the design, but please don't sit there and tell me that is so fake. And when they thought, you would think they would go, well, maybe we can fool people with this. But then they show us more of other people that faked the same thing, and they did it worse. So like people saw this on the internet and they're like, oh, okay. So we're having this alien bug invasion thing, right? So let's see. Did I clip them or did I leave them on here? Maybe I didn't leave them on here. Yeah. Okay. There's one crossing the road with a bunch of cars just watching. And here's a guy in the park. Look at how that tail flows. Fake. This actually looks fairly real. Whoever did this did a decent job. But these other ones, this is so fake right here. The movement is terrible. But this isn't too bad CGI if you're doing it in your home, I guess. And I do like the design of the monster, but I'm calling fake on this. Jeff Potts says it's Ohio. It could very well be real. Oh, okay. Is that a Swiftie? I don't know what a Swiftie is. Isn't a Swiftie, isn't that what you use to like to mop up your floor? Or is that a Swiffer? What's a Swiftie? Looks like an art school project. I agree, but it's not bad. If my daughter's in art school. If she turned this in, I'd give her an A. Grasshopper pie is yummy. Yeah, according to AOC. So anyway, there you go. That's the alien invasion that's apparently going on in Ohio that we're unaware of. And I know you're saying, Aaron, come on, you can do better than that. Actually, I can't. Here's a scene from What's that vampire movie? Kristen Stewart. Let's get past this. Okay, here we go. This I find interesting, although this is a dragon. They found a dead body of a dragon. Now, first they said it was the Philippines. They said no, it was in China. Then they said no, it was someplace else. So, right. But this is probably a sculpture someone did. It's pretty darn good. Now, this is where you get an A for effort, because if you did a fake one of these things and you laid it out in the dirt to take a picture of it, that's effort. And they did a good job. I think that looks pretty good. It's very clearly a sculpture, but they did a pretty good job with that. Paul says there's no visible wounds. It died of old age. And it died all curled up like that too, which is, it like died presentationally. It's like, do I look good like this? Ugh. So, smoke it in Applewood. I'd eat that. Jimmy Reyes says movie prop. Yeah, it's well done. Aaron, props for not falling into the rage farm clickbait drama crap for your peers. CG aliens are the most controversial thing you bring up. Refreshing. Dude, I am here for the good times. That's all I'm here for. Hulk Smash says, no, that's real. Susan Ronan, not a bad design. I think this is good. If it's a movie prop, or if, somebody's just really good and made this, I'm loving it. Jimmy Reyes, of course, has Dragon Rage available right now on Indiegogo. You want to back that book. He's a believer in dragons, and I'd love to believe in dragons. In fact, you could almost convince me that they might have lived at some point and then got extinct in the Middle Ages. That's fun to think anyway. Paul appreciates the work involved, the craftsmanship. That's a pretty good dragon. If I'd drawn that, I'd feel pretty good about myself. Cole King says he lives in Ohio. That was just a big cicada. Is that how you pronounce that? Cicada. Could be from a theme park. Jimmy Cricket is breaking it down for us. John Platt, that ribcage looks realistic enough. It's more believable than the last video of E.T. Exactly. But yeah, that's, again, A for effort. A for effort on that one. I think if I would have done it, though, I would have posed it so it looked like maybe it fell over a log and died or something, instead of just perfectly curled up, like, presentational like that. All right. I saved the best for last. I have been searching the web for anything that even remotely looks believable to me. And I think I finally found, well, you be the judge, but I think I finally found the best looking Bigfoot video I've ever seen. So you tell me, you take a look at it. I clipped it. It's short, as they always are, but it's in focus. And that's pretty good. You tell me what you think. What do you think of that? Let's watch that again. Now, I think that's in Ohio. I'm not sure. I could be mistaken. Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, sure. I think it's, yeah, I know I got everybody all worked up. Oh, sorry about that. Citizen Ronan says it's fake because the guy wasn't in a red shirt. That's right. And he died anyway. Andy Dolph believes it. Paul Taylor says Star Trek episode where the shuttle sends up a flare at the end. Spock's Gambit. Yeah. The Galileo 7 is what that was called. And I loved it as a kid because it was had giant cavemen in it. I mean, what's not to love, right? So Everybody's complaining about that guy's not having a red shirt on. I don't. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? That was first season. They were still making. He wasn't a security. I don't think he was security. That was officer. No, that was a Lieutenant Katano or something. So he was like a command officer. He wasn't like a security dude. The security dude had got killed in the previous scene by a giant spear. He was walking up on this ledge and he's looking around, going, "I don't see anything." It was just. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. I hear growling and grinding noises, and I'm going to go stand up on a peak, so I'm just wide open for anyone to shoot me. Dennis C. Nolasco says Galaxy Quest was the best Star Trek movie. I love Galaxy Quest. Certainly, I don't know, Wrath of Khan. You can't beat Wrath of Khan, but you could squeeze Galaxy Quest second best. John Platt wants verification. Wasn't it Andre the Giant who played Sasquatch in the $1 Million Man episode? That is correct. It was Andre the Giant. So this is interesting. There are mentions in the Book of Job of what appeared to be dinosaurs, and that always lends to the idea of, well, wait a minute, could dinosaurs have actually existed at the same time as man? Those are some of my crazy ideas. And when we get into dinosaurs, we'll talk about. But Bigfoot versus Garbage Man. I'd buy that Empire Comics book, says C. Quinn Schulardist. I know that little thing means something over the A, but I don't know what. Yeah, that's why Graham Nolan and I team up, right? And you have Garbage Man versus the Chenoo. Battle Royale. Garbage Man might freeze in the snow, though. He's got a lot of mud in there, and that would get like really hard and crumbly. He might be in trouble, actually. Red shirt requirements are no family, no relatives. You are cannon fodder. Yep, there you go. Everybody agrees that Galaxy Quest is great. It is. It is great. That's right. Paul Taylor, of course, clarifying the Andre the Giant Bigfoot $6 Million Man episode. Steve Austin tore his arm off, revealing Sasquatch as a robot. He was an alien robot, right? Yeah. Darn aliens. You just can't trust them. Why would an alien that looks like a bug make a Bigfoot robot? Makes no sense. Makes sense. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs says wizard sleeves. How about that? Everybody's quoting Galaxy Quest in there. Craig Smith, the second for 5. Thank you, Craig. Sorry, I'm just now getting to this. Says Aaron, hello. I don't know if I asked this, but if you were to draw Wonder Woman, who would you be the writer you would work with? Greg Rucka or another writer? Me. I don't work with anybody anymore. Actually, the only person I had a 2-year. Wait a minute, Craig. I drew Wonder Woman for 2 years, right? You know that, right? Right. Yeah, I was a regular artist on Wonder Woman. Gail Simone was the writer on it. And we did the first story arc was Barbarian Wonder Woman. It was like 5 issues. It was my favorite thing because I had the 70s. Now the overall project, I was never a huge Wonder Woman fan. That's why it wasn't in my top 5. But that first story arc we did where Beowulf was in it, the Stalker, and Claude the Unconquered, which were DC's Barbarian titles from the 70s, were worked in there with Wonder Woman. Heaven. That was a lot of fun. And my favorite comic book writer is probably Robert Venditti. We worked on Damage together, but I worked on other things with him. He's really, really good. And that's not to disparage anybody else I worked with, because I worked with a lot of good writers. But Robert Venditti would probably be the guy. But I don't know that I would draw Wonder Woman again. You can never go home again, right? Isn't that what they say? Tom Seaver did it, went back and pitched for the Mets, but they usually say you can never go home again. So, but at this point in my life, it's like if the mainstream blew up and they brought in all new management and everything changed, and someone called me up and said, "Hey, Aaron, do you want to work on whatever title?" I wouldn't do it unless I was writing it. It's just, there's no point in me going back to just working on a project for somebody else. I'd have to have more invested in it, and that would be me as the writer. So there you go. There you go. I'm glad I checked the old super chats. Don't want those to slide by. Appreciate you guys sending them my way. That's going to wrap it up for this evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys taking the time to spend some time over here. I know a lot of other people are live streaming. It's always a competitive field out there on Sunday evenings. I used to own this, but now everybody's doing it. So what do you do? So if you didn't catch me live, please take a moment and catch me in reruns. I think you'll find it worth it. It's always fun to talk about comics and art. And that's what we always do here, and movies and music. It just changes from week to week. We'll have all new programming next week because I got to bring in some new features since I run the gamut on some of these other ones. So Paul Taylor for $10 Canadian. Thank you, Paul, so much. Says, there was a what if where Conan went to the present day and had an epic fight with Captain America. Check it out. There's also, he fought Wolverine too. All right. I've seen that one. I haven't seen it, but I know of it. But I was like, come on, Conan modern day. Although, what was that series? The Dark Avengers or something like that had like Conan, Punisher, Venom, Brother Voodoo was in it. That was actually pretty good. I read like the first 5 or 6 issues of that. I actually kind of really liked it. Diodato, I think, was the artist on it. It's actually pretty good. And then I quit reading it, and I don't know what happened. So anyway, Savage Avengers. There it is. Jimmy Reyes knows. He doesn't know who Clint Barton is or Oliver Queen, but he does know who the Savage Avengers are. So there you go. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. Oh, Creative Faye, real quickly. Last week you talked about a YouTuber going over the moon landing. Was it the Y-Files? I don't remember. But he presented everything about the moon landing and what people's objections were to it and why it was fake. Like, why isn't there any stars? Why are the shadows going this way? Why is blah, blah, blah. And then he went through each one. And so you thought, oh, he doesn't think the moon landing was real. This is interesting. But then he goes back and explains how every single one of those actually doesn't work, and that it still believes that, the moon landing was there. But the question is, why did we go, right? It's not, did we go? Although that might be a question. Although I find it hard to believe, oh my gosh, don't get me started talking about this. I find it hard to believe that you could do such a huge thing and fake it and have none of it leaked years later. There'd be too many people involved. So, but anyway, that's a topic for another discussion. I got to run because I'm hungry. He has a talking fish with him. Yes, that's the guy. That's the guy with the talking fish. That is absolutely right. That's the guy. So anyway, guys, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chats. Comicsgate Kings tomorrow night. Professionals on Tuesday. Graybeard Studio Wednesdays, 2:00 Pacific time, right here on this channel. I have no idea what will be drawn, but we'll be drawing something. And if you want to see my my paintings that I've been working on, I'll be showing those on Graybeards. So don't miss that. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your Sunday evening. Have a great week, and we will see you next time right here on Aaron Live. Ciao.